I'm assuming you read
Hi,
it.
everyone. Thank you for coming. We have a quorum. I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Minutes of June 6th. Does anyone have any questions on the minutes? No, I'll accept the motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. That was a lively discussion, lively minutes. Okay. Any public comment? Nobody's here. So that's it. Gabe's on. Everyone's information. How you doing, Gabe?
Good, thank you.
Getting to be often.
Yeah.
Okay. With all these extra meetings. Okay, Mike, do you want to get us started on the first item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The on page 8 of the packet, or you can just reference the screen
Yeah.
top here.
No glasses.
This is an amendment of the current year tip, the FY 2016 to 2019 tip. We need to amend years 16 and 17, essentially to increase the funding devoted to the, I'll call it the in-town bike path phase 1, but a multi-use path from Washington Street Extension to Orange Street. Add funds to the CMAQ line item for 2016, and then add funding to 2017. Right now, we don't have funding program for 2017 for this project, but this would add about $2.4 million to FY 2016 to bring the total funding devoted to this phase of the project to, I believe it's $3.7 million if you look at FY 15, 16, and 17 of the TIP. But this is strictly to amend the current year's TIP for 16 and 17. Staff asks that you authorize the release of this TIP amendment for public review. And what's included in the packet, what's projected is the public notice. Release that for public review from June 23rd, which is this Thursday, to July 25th, with a public hearing scheduled for our next meeting on July 18th. And then at the July 25th meeting, on July 25th, the amendment will become effective if approved at the July 18th public hearing. So staff is requesting authorization to advertise this public notice for that time period and to have this item on the agenda for July 18th.
All right, no, hold on 1 second, Karen, just real quick. This is for, because of the bids and being rebidded and, right, why we're moving to 16 up? Is that why this is?
Correct. There were corrections to the bidding documents, which
Okay.
should bring the price down from, you might recall
Right,
that the bid
yep.
was rejected because the prices were so inflated.
Confusing as well.
Now this process is to cover that in case the prices go up even more, I suppose. That's my understanding, is just to have the worst case scenario budgeted for it. And if the bids come in a lot lower, then there'll just be funding that's not utilized, but at least
Okay.
it won't require any TIP amendments to the local, regional, or the state TIP.
Okay.
It's just,
Okay.
And we can always
avoid that.
reallocate later if it doesn't come to that.
Well, I think the state will reallocate, it'll just be unspent, I guess it's unobligated funds, but they're at least authorized to have a budget, but we're not obligating those funds. So they'll just deobligate those and put them to another source. That's kind of Gabe's role, is to figure out what to do with the surplus, but
Okay.
at least we're covered in case the bids come in a lot higher than what we anticipate.
This is about the most expensive bike path we've done. It's not a short distance. It's not.
The dollar figure right now, the 3.7,
Includes-
is probably the most expensive per mile. Again, I don't anticipate those costs coming in quite that high.
But that includes damage awards, right?
No, those are
It doesn't.
already financed.
They are, okay,
Correct.
all right,
This is just construction.
okay. Okay, Karen made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Those opposed? Unanimous,
I have
Eleanor.
a quick question, Nat.
Yes.
Was this for
Matt.
the one that Bobby's talking about, the culverts? Is this gonna be underneath this bike path? One of the
Yes.
issues one of the issues that came up at the selectmen's meeting was that the culverts under there, we assumed they'd be able to be shut at, if there's a storm and a tide, and our understanding is they won't be, so.
The culverts aren't built as part of this, they're
Right.
built as part of Constance.
Understood.
The
The
culverts
same
will be
location.
another contract?
But will they be able to be fixed without, like, just, you don't have to,
The box culvert
Did-
dropped in.
yeah, okay.
The culverts will be done.
So it won't have anything, it won't affect the.
I hope so, if not, they can be jacked under.
Jack Dunn.
The concerns Bobby had is if you looked at the tides on the last couple big storms,
Right.
those will hold that whole, the railroad bed was holding the water back from flowing all the way into, into Washington Street and near, so.
Just back the dump truck up on the bike path and dump a load of sandbags over the edge and plug the hole
So
up.
you're saying that it was acting as a levee,
Right.
Yeah.
theoretically?
And if you put a bigger tunnel underneath it, the more water's going to.
So you want tile gates or some kind of
Exactly.
Yeah, slide
thing that
gates.
slides down?
Yeah.
That you could
We're having
shut.
the consultant look at it.
Okay. All right. Next item, Mike, the tip schedule, or are we moving to the public hearing, the public participation plan?
No, this is the tip. We've had a number of meetings. On page 37, there's kind of a summary of where we are with this. It's item number 2 in the transportation report. It also has in the table under item number 2 where we've been in our March 28th, May 2nd, and June 6th meetings. And this meeting, the point of it is to authorize the public review schedule for the tip. That'll start this, identical to the tip amendment. It'll start June 23rd. There'll be a meeting on July 18th, at which time there'll be public comment given and then action requested to the NPDC to approve it, to have it become effective at the end of the public review schedule, which is scheduled on July 25th.
Okay. All right.
And you're familiar with the projects in the tip. There was a handout that I had that had an updated one, but essentially the public notice will have the funding that's being flexed over to the NRTA for 2 bus replacements for 2017. There will be the funding for the in-town bike path for 2017 added to that, and then the Surfside Bartlett roundabout for years 19 and 20.
Okay. So you expect the bike path, the full project to be done by end of 2017?
The in-town bike path?
Yeah.
That's kind of separate from this, but it should be, yes, it should be, at least the funding used for that project should be.
Because it seems to me that it's going to go into 18 a little bit, but that's just my guess, you know. So you have the Bartlett Surfside roundabout is the next one up, which we knew that was the next one.
Correct, and that still has to be advanced through the district.
Yeah.
Paperwork's been submitted. We're meeting with District 5 to kind of get that project initiated into the state produce system.
And we've already paid for all the engineering on this, haven't we?
No,
With VHB?
No.
But they've done a lot
no.
of work on that.
We've done preliminary
Yeah.
traffic studies. We've done a conceptual plan. There's been right-of-way acquired with layout plans. But the engineering of the intersection itself, the survey and
Okay.
quantifying the materials needed to reconstruct the intersection, that still is something that needs to be done. Funding for that was allocated at this past town meeting, and it becomes available July 1st, and then after July 1st, we need to issue an RFP for
So
design
we
services.
can work on this no matter what. We don't have to wait for another tip project. We can just do it.
No, that's our tip project. We pretty much have to make sure that that's
Stays on
it-
schedule.
It stays on schedule,
All right.
and actually, we're hoping to see if that can be advanced to go into year FY18. Right now, we don't have a project for FY18.
That would
If it
be
can be
good.
advanced quickly, because there's really not a lot of significant issues, hopefully that could be our 2018 project. If not, right now it's for 2019.
Okay. All right. So you don't need a vote on that, right? Because we've already, that's kind of what we already voted for, correct?
Item number 2, at the very bottom, what's underlined, staff is requesting the NPDC authorize the release of the draft FY 17 to 21 tip for public review from June 23rd to July 25th, and schedule a public hearing on July 18th to solicit public comments. That's the requested action.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So, all those in favor? I think Jack seconded that, yes. Okay. Mike, I don't know how much discussion you want to have on the NERDA discussion from last meeting.
We still have some,
Matt wasn't here.
UPWP. Still.
Oh,
Let's get
okay,
to that.
sorry about that. UPWP, Mike, sorry.
no, that's all right. There's just 2 more items to get through. Very similar action.
Okay.
The, as you all know, the UPWP is the program of tasks that are going to be done in the next fiscal year in 2017. Just like the TIP, that has to go through a 30-day public review period. We're asking for NPDC authorization to release the draft 2017 UPWP for public review from June 23rd to July 25th, and schedule a public hearing on July 18th to solicit public comments.
Okay. Yeah, I got it. All those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it unanimously. I want to thank you. Okay, Mike.
Do we have to vote to sign this? Page 13? Or not yet?
I think that's part of the endorsement when we approve it, right, Mike? To sign for the state?
50 is a energy application that's going to be under other business later in the agenda.
13.
On page 13 is the endorsement of the public participation plan. That's this item on the agenda.
Okay, all right,
This
that is the next item, okay.
Yeah.
Item D.
I just lost my place.
So we're item D on the agenda.
Item D on the agenda is the public participation plan. This date, June 20th, you may recall, way back on March 28th, the NPDC reviewed the draft public participation plan, and it has been out for this one has to go under a 45-day public review, so it's a little bit more intense than the other documents. That was under public review from May 26th, and it's scheduled to be closed on July 28th. Or, excuse me, July 18th. This meeting, June 2nd, is the public hearing date to take any public comments on this. So if there's anyone here to speak on that, this is June 20th is the public hearing date today.
Yeah, she's correcting you. You said the second, but don't worry. We knew what you
I'm
meant.
sorry.
Thank you. Has anyone submitted anything, Mike?
I've received no comments. Mass DOT is still compiling their comments, and I should have those soon. I believe their comments were to the effect of getting a little bit more descriptive about when we actually do meet the NPDC. Right now, there's really nothing in the participation plan about when the NPDC meets, so we can include some language about that.
Well, our regular schedule meetings,
Correct.
6.
Correct. And right now, there's really nothing about
Yeah.
How frequent or when and location, things like this. So that can be added. I should note that the most significant change in the public participation plan, right now, we advertise public hearings during the review of these, which require advertisement in the INM. We're changing that protocol to public meetings, which do not require advertising and notice in the paper, but we will have notice submitted through the other meeting notification methods, social media, the town's website. We have a list of stakeholders that we send out an email blast to, notifying them specially if, to make sure that they get the notices if they're not subscribed to the town's website. So we're going to use those avenues in addition to, if we think it's necessary, radio advertising and other things that are a little less costly than newspaper ads.
Just going to say that's the reason.
Costs, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
It's about $1,000 to go through these public review notices
But no one
for each of
responds.
the documents.
Okay, all right. Does anyone have any questions? So no one's responded, Mike, so what do we need to do next? What kind of action do you need for this?
This is going to continue to the July 18th meeting, at which
Okay.
time the NPNCB has to endorse the public participation plan, and then the protocol changes that I just described will become effective.
Okay. All right. Okay, now we're at the NERDA and Mike.
And this
I'm
is,
not sure exactly what, we've come up with since the last meeting, but I don't see Paula here tonight.
no, there really hasn't been a lot of progress since we've met. I should note that the Board of Selectmen are going to review the alternative
Yeah,
system on Wednesday,
this Wednesday?
this Wednesday,
Okay.
at the NRTA Advisory Board meeting. I believe that's 5:45 if you intend on going. It's a little before 6 o'clock. Am I right with that? Okay. So after that meeting, we should have a new cost for that alternative. If that turns into the preferred alternative, we'll use that dollar figure in trying to find revenue sources to fund it and to evaluate, what methods to fund it with.
I mean, there was a lot of discussion at the last meeting. Matt wasn't here, so just to kind of, I think just because of the confusion with the shuttle, with the ferry shuttle connector and the two fairgrounds and how it is so interwoven into the town with the parking area, it's really a selectman. It's a mixture of things. I mean, and I think that rather than having this shuttle sort of disappear again, and here we go to next year comes along and we pretend that no one ever heard of it and we're not going to do anything about it, and I think we should talk about it this summer. That was my suggestion at the last meeting, that we have a joint meeting about really getting this thing aired out and figure out how we want to proceed. I can't remember the term that you guys used, Mike, about how that's separate from the regular shuttle, the regular bus route, how it's funded. I can't remember the word you used, but there's something.
Yeah.
It has to go to town meeting to be changed. I believe that was the answer.
Correct. There's a local
If you
assessment.
say the word, I'm going to know what it was. I can't remember what you
No
said.
pressure on me, we'll get it.
There's
now.
something to do with
I'm
how
still trying to
that
reach what we're
becomes
talking
out
about.
of the budget. That's what I asked that
Well, there's
question.
the local
here.
assessment it's basically taken off the town's budget that funds a number of different new services.
Yeah.
Because the ferry connector is not considered a new service, the local assessment can't be the way that you fund it. So there was, I guess the town's going through the capital process in order to fund that route, if that's what you're referring to. But we did
Yeah.
go through 7 other options for funding it if it was not going to be locally.
And I think most of them are, other than the local tax, I think all of them need to be looked at, for the most part. The embarkation fee, we already know how we,
Correct.
feel about that, and I think that should be looked at as a whole,
Yeah.
personally.
There were 2 actions that the NPDC took last meeting. One was to schedule this workshop with the Board of Selectmen to go through these
Yeah.
lists of options to see which one were more acceptable. And there was also support of the regional ballot initiative, which
Yeah.
is the
Which
state
is great.
legislation, which would actually,
You don't have to go
Power
to the
locally.
state to change it. Would that be-
well, we'd have the authority here locally to
Yeah.
make those changes rather
Yeah.
than home rule petition.
Yeah. Okay, so there's nothing more then, Mike, on this? No?
Not too much. I know the NRTA did request or just asked town administration and the Board of Selectmen about it, the next workshop, and that issue that was unable to get scheduled. So I think that's still a loose end if that's something that's necessary. And I don't know if our representative to the Board of Selectmen, I guess making him aware of it is probably a nice first step. But
And when do you need that scheduled? When would you like that scheduled?
we were talking about August, but I think if September is the next available, then that would have to be the one. But starting the discussion earlier, because I know
The
that
earlier the better, Mike.
No, I agree.
Just-
I agree.
We got Capcom, in October, we have town meeting in October this year.
Yeah.
It just,
This
that's,
table on page 28 is really helpful. I thought this was very good, the way it lays out the money generated and split it up into the various mechanisms.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah, Matt, if you have any questions about those, just give me a call or
No,
something.
I
if you
think I
don't.
understand what's doing. Was there any discussion of instituting paid parking downtown completely?
yes, the sticker.
Correct.
Which, and in fairness, Matt, we both of us know about that, how that all started, and it really did get, I don't want to say sandbagged 2 years ago when Bruce brought it up, but it really wasn't presented, I don't think, in a way that would have been accepted. It sort of came out of nowhere, and I don't think anyone remembers that we already discussed this as a kind of a comparison to the beach sticker.
15 years.
As a
before.
privilege, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it was like '01, I think, but maybe even before that. But, it's a way to generate funds without adding any costs, any overhead, whether it's mechanical, whether it's personnel. We already have a beach sticker program built into the town,
A few $100 like Snickers.
so.
Mike, wasn't there some confusion, though, about whether the NPDC had actually, I thought we heard something from the chairman of the Board of Selectmen that said he didn't remember that coming up.
I believe that was a couple of meetings ago, not the last meeting that we had,
Okay.
I'm guessing.
Because I didn't see it reflected in our minutes, but.
Yeah, I can't provide any more clarity on that, other than we didn't talk about it at the meeting before when we had talked about funding options,
Right.
but this past
Last
meeting.
meeting we did.
We did.
And he was here for that last meeting. So, okay.
I don't think
I missed the last one. I was at the one before.
Jim
Yeah.
he wasn't?
Two meetings ago.
Two
Are you
meetings
sure?
ago.
I thought he was here at the last meeting.
He was here the first one.
There
I
were
was-
no
Okay.
meetings on-
Well, that explains that. Well, that explains that then. I thought he was here. Okay. All right. Does anyone have anything else on this? I think this.
I just go back, I think that we should be thinking about doing paid parking downtown of some type, and I think it would raise a lot more than the stickers projected to raise, and I think it would help the downtown businesses. I think as soon as they start enforcement this year, you could park downtown again. You couldn't park downtown most of the winter. And everyone says, oh, yeah, you can, whatever. I went down multiple times, there was nowhere to park, and I knew all the cars, I knew who they were, and I just think that if there was some disincentive to doing that all day, we would make a lot more money, and we would have a lot more vibrant downtown. And I think people are ready for it, people that weren't accepting of it before. And in the winter, all you'd be doing is asking the people who are parking in front of their own businesses and slitting their own throats to move over 2 blocks. You'd say, just go into the 2 hours. And, if you want to park here all day, okay, you're going to pay. And in the summer, you base it on demand, you'd crank the demand up. Because some of these other things won't work. A parking lot fee and all this other stuff doesn't work if someone just pulls in front of their desk on Center Street and parks all day. So I just think that should be part of the discussion. If we're going to have a big picture discussion on how to fund, this and sidewalks and everything else that we seem to want, then I think that should be part of the discussion at some point.
But when you say paid, you mean meters or some type, not the sticker program.
Potentially the sticker, it's to identify the vehicles, but maybe maybe you have to be identified and be in the system if you're going to park there, and then depends what the system is. And then it should be, maybe it's free for the first hour or two, and then then there's a charge, and it includes anywhere in the course. You just can't move from one spot to 3 spots over, which I saw happening the other day. The first day I noticed they were parking, that they were enforcing.
That's what the town building does. They all get up and
Oh,
move.
they all get, and all the other shopkeepers too. And they pull up, they go 3
Go around
spots
the block
over.
and take
Yeah.
someone else's spot.
And I just think that's defeating the whole intent of why you do it, if you're, doing it right. So I just think that should be a discussion.
In various forms.
Yeah.
Last meeting.
There should be ticketing downtown there year-round, because he keeps the guys on, he keeps a half a dozen guys on, he sounds his on year-round.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why he doesn't use them downtown.
We used to ticket in the winter. We didn't ticket at all this winter.
Right.
It was only if you called. It was only on
Last
a
several
complaint.
years, they haven't ticketed downtown, no different.
It's based on complaints. If someone complains, then they'll send someone down. But other than that, it isn't happening. Anyway, that's, you know.
That's a,
Mr. Chairman, can I ask,
yes, go ahead.
so, Matt, you think that there might be support for like the pay station idea that we studied before?
Yeah, pay station or some variation of that.
Right.
I think people understand it now, and it doesn't mean you're gonna have a meter on every.
No, we never talked about individual meters, that
No,
would
but
be.
that's what everyone thinks.
Yeah,
And that's what the
yeah.
public thinks. They
We would
think,
actually have trouble
Yeah, but enough
getting
people have gone
meters
to
at
the
every
parking
park.
lots like in the
Right.
city.
oh, yeah.
True.
Key stations where you go up and pay for your ticket, stick it in your windshield.
And I know to do any of it, you have to have someone who's, you know, who owns that job. I mean, you know, that's gonna be, I think that's one of the hardest things is who's gonna, you know, how do you know, what department does it go into and what incentives do they have and how do they do it? But
I don't think there's as much support for that as you think, but that's just my opinion. I mean, the reason I think the sticker makes sense is because you're still keeping exactly the same control over 2 hour, 1 hour, 30-minute. So that system all stays in place. Nothing changes. It's just the privilege to actually park in town you're paying for, not to
But
park
then again-
longer.
Yeah, but you could, well, if you get the privilege to park, does that mean we're gonna enforce it the same way and you can park all day still? Or not enforce it in the winter all day?
Well, I think
Because what I worry about
the
with what you're
same
saying.
argument still happens.
I understand, but what I think what's gonna happen is then the people who are gonna have bought something, and they're gonna say, hey, wait a minute, I bought this, I have the right to park down here whenever I want. You know, as long as I want. I know there's a sign there, but, you know, why are you charging me twice? I just think that if we're gonna do it, at some point we have to do it. And if we want to have enough money to build a parking garage and to fund the buses and things as we get busier, we're gonna have to find a dedicated, fairly substantial funding source.
But I think, I know with my kids and the people that work from downtown, got them to buy a pass on the ferry, connector. And they park out here and ride in, and it's very convenient. It goes downtown all the time, and it's not that far away from where you work.
It's the downtown bus, theoretically.
And it eliminates people coming downtown and doing what he was talking about, moving the car.
We spent an hour and a half on this last time. There's exact comments, and it seems like the next step is to get the Board of Selectmen in the same room, because we can keep saying this ad nauseum.
Yeah, I mean, it's the lot's full. If too many people use it, there's not enough space. All these different questions year round. What we should be charging. John had some really good ideas on that as far as the workers that come over, the people that have the vehicles on the island, you know, year round.
Matt, this into your goals and objectives.
Yeah. Well, we don't have them yet, but we've been talking about it.
All right.
I'm just, excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Now, the reason I'm asking is we've been going around and around about this for years, and you know, I think that we've tried to present a series of solutions here. The implementation phase clearly really does follow the Board of Selectmen to make that, you know, decision, or at least to pull some triggers at this point. So that, you know, I just want to make sure that's on the grid instead of, you know, instead of just talking the thing out about where we're going to head, because I think that's kind of important. But I wouldn't say one approach is going to deal with the situation.
No,
It's going to have to be a series of different things you're going to have to do, because you still want to make your downtown accessible somehow. You know, just doing one particular thing may discourage a lot of people from being down there. Have you guys also talked to the Merchants Association as well, too?
They've come in a couple times, but not.
There is not the Merchant
Yeah,
Association.
it's
Or is
basically
it down
Chamber.
downtown. It's Allen Bell.
Bell's downtown,
Yeah.
but it's not a,
I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm just
it's definitely better than nothing, but it's not quite
where it
what it used to be.
doesn't have quite the
I think my only concern is that it's not a fair and equitable solution for year-rounders, local tourists, because there are a lot of people that come here for a week vacation. They're trying to park and they bring their vehicle. If we have a sticker program and it's only really known by the local to
Yeah,
go
not
in
sold
there.
on that one at all. I
Yeah,
don't think the
so
merchants
any
would.
kind of parking that we have, we're all in agreement that, hey, parking downtown would be a huge source of revenue. But unless it's universal, where it's a program, like you go to Boston and it treats residents and tourists alike fairly on a corner. You go get your ticket, you pay your hour, and it's pretty easy and universal to everyone. I think that's what's going to be the trick, to make sure that everybody, whether you're a stranger or a local, knows it.
Mike, I mean, well, Mike, I guess. Where does the money go for tickets? General fund?
General fund,
You don't. Why didn't I say that?
Mr. Traffic ticket over
There's
there.
pictures on the envelope.
They give them like a couple $100,000.
So that money doesn't go, so we couldn't, is there a way, now see, this is a good question, Matt, listen, I wouldn't want this in my lap, this issue. This is not supported, I don't think, okay? The reason I'm asking you this question is, does that legislation allow us to locally, I guess, designate the money from the tickets to go to something specific?
No, I think that's a decision made
It's a
by.
separate issue.
Yeah, you already make that locally.
It just goes into the
Oh,
general fund.
So we could make the decision ourselves how it gets distributed
Well-
out of the local, out of the general fund.
The administration does.
Well, whatever, that's fine. It's in other
You
words,
can
it
make a
doesn't have to
you can make
be.
a recommendation to the administration.
See, that's a good, see, we've never talked about that, Mike. How much money's from parking tickets?
We looked it up last time, and it's like $300,000.
Something like this, yeah.
But again, that money is
300
being
grand,
used to
300
run the
grand.
regular budget
Right.
throughout the whole.
No, I understand, it would have to be made up somewhere else. No, I understand the whole, gotta come from somewhere else thing. Believe me, I've got 12 years of the steamship of that. It's like a repeated button, I hear it all the time. I'm just thinking about it from something, we've never actually brought that up before. But so has the embarkation fee, the cops have had it for 12 years. And that's it. Like, we just pretend that that's why I still think that that's something that we should be talking about with the selectmen. Okay, anyway, I mean, we're a long way to go, because if we get too much more successful, there's not gonna be enough space to park anyway, so we have to kinda let it sort of go. I think the most important thing we should be implementing is to come up with a number for the construction vehicle people.
The ferry
$1,000 a
connector
year.
is something it's a very successful system, wildly successful. The problem with it is it's not funded beyond this year.
But it's not funded, but we haven't even figured out how to fund it other than the donation thing from the existing 3 years ago concept.
Correct.
We know we have to charge, we're charging $2 a ride now, and that's the first time we did that, but we gotta get a number. I think John kind of adjusted my head a little bit. I think $1,000 a year is a good number for those vehicles.
Well, if we're looking at just parking tickets generating $200,000 or $300,000 a year, and we were talking about a parking place, maybe 200 parking places, besides the added revenue that you get for the $2 to come out and back, if you have somebody that's parking there for a year and they're paying $1,000 a contractor and they know they have a safe place to put their vehicle, besides
Need
using
more
the
of them
road-
doing it.
Right, well, there's a couple 100,000 right there, and
Yeah.
that doesn't even affect the downtown parking, tickets and generating the revenue. So-
Yeah.
What the chief told us the other day was that they made an exemption for like the 5 or 6 trucks that are downtown and have commercial plates. So we made a category, and it was Butler and a couple others live downtown. Okay, we'll do that. In the first year, there were like 5 or 6 of them. What he claimed the other day, and I haven't checked to see if this is true, he claimed there's 1,500 now who have got themselves, the $10 or $20 residential to park downtown. And so some of the guys that previously were using it here are starting to park again downtown because there was a loophole. And I don't know if it's really. I was surprised at that. I don't believe that, but
That's impossible.
I thought he said 150.
Nah, he said-
I thought 180.
1,500.
We only park like 170 behind 2FG.
No, we do. Downtown's 800, yeah. So maybe it's 150, maybe I misheard him, but it was still substantially from 5 to 150.
Yeah.
If it's that, I thought I heard 100,000.
I haven't seen that Donnie Electric vehicle down Easton Street in a while. I mean, we know who the people are for the most
Some
part.
of the same truckers are down there. That Donnelly Electric was down there on Easton Street again like he used to be.
In the summer?
Yeah, he's staying there every day.
Well, he should be in towed.
Well, yeah, but somewhere around it, he's probably got.
He should be out here.
What they've done then is they've found a workaround, and the police claim that they can't distinguish. If someone goes, if someone says they have have the access and they have an address, they can't discriminate between a guy with there's a renting a house and a guy who owns a house. You can't discriminate, so they've, so all of a sudden, something that moved a bunch of
I
cars
see
out
what
of
you're saying.
downtown isn't doing it anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
So this has to be looked at globally, and someone has to own it and be in charge of it, or we're gonna keep going around and around. That's my thing.
No, that's a good point. It has to be like the sign guy.
Yeah.
I don't know, somebody that's like totally doped out with this whole thing, gets all the angles.
Yeah. Or you
'Cause,
make,
I mean-
make one change and then it's no good a year later. It's
Okay.
Yeah, that's what happened on that one.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It was good for the 1 year, that's all.
Then they found a loophole.
They don't find the loophole with it.
What do you think, Mike? I mean, these vehicles are all out here, aren't they, most of them? The ones that were in the town lot in the winter are out here in the summer, for the most part.
And you go
Correct.
by the airport parking lot, there's probably
that's-
10.
And that's one of the reasons why Paul incorporated the route from the airport into the boat, because of the use of that lot. Some people will use it.
I mean, the airport's $20 a night for parking. The way we figured it up under option 6, if we were going to charge for a 200 space parking lot overnight, $17.50, that would pay for the ferry connector system. I mean,
Yeah, you
there's
gotta have
willingness to pay, and then there's market rates, and I think we've become in line with that. It would actually be cheaper than the airport's overnight parking. So, is that an incentive? I don't know. Probably not. We've subsidized a little bit. But you see how
But
the
what about
cost of that service.
What's their yearly permit? It ain't $20 a day times 365.
I'm sure they give you like a 20% discount or something like this, but look at what you're talking about. That's, it's not all that different than, the $17.50 versus the $20 a night. It's a little bit of a break if you're looking at what is the value of overnight parking in a protected lot to get to a transportation service. I mean, you can't park downtown to get to the ferry, so that's out here. So there's a cost for providing the shuttle, and that's the way it divides out. The $1,750 or $1,700 seasonal permit would pay for the system. I'm sure you can make that cheaper, but then you got to make up that cost through another revenue stream. Maybe it's the embarkation fee, but that would fund just the ferry connector service. And again, that's just a seasonal service. And do you want to run the ferry connector on a year-round basis, and do you want to have other year-round services? That's
I just came up to $6,200 a year.
say that one more time.
I think it's $6,000 a year. That's what it came out to at my math.
That's more than steamship fee.
What, at $20 a day or $17?
Yeah, but no, that's not what a year-round stick is $650.
Right. Yeah.
900 for a lot closer, but no, we're not using that year-round anymore. I mean,
Correct.
I don't think you're
If
going to
it's
ask
a
someone to
given,
pay
it's-
$6,000 a year to park. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to, I think they'll end up with a worse, it's a solution in search of a problem, in my opinion, but anyway. All right, maybe we could get somebody like Mike Massa's married to this thing that can talk to these people individually. He knows when when they're out there and they park and they go to the boat. Maybe kind of get maybe a handout that we want to look at enhancing this, and if they know something's going to change. They know it's a sort of a.
You just want to get a sense of how much they bear.
Yeah.
Would they
I-
pay $100 a month, or would they pay $200 a month?
And the subject are the commuters that
Yeah, I mean, they're not, all these companies leaving their van here year round. There's nobody's bringing it here for a month. And
Okay.
those people are leaving them on job sites.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
they
that's a
did
different
that for while
scenario.
Last winter too, they were leaving right on the job site when the job site was in town.
Yeah.
They left them there. That way they can walk from.
Yeah, I mean, this is a totally different thing. It's not going to change. The boat is not going anywhere. So
Yeah.
I think we should, as a town, be looking at this as the downtown direct shuttle, regardless of whether it's the boat or
Whatever
not.
you charge them, they're just gonna pass it off to the customer anyway.
Right.
And, so they shouldn't really worry about what the town is paying. You pay $10 a day or whatever it may be, they're gonna pass it on to the customer. And extra buck an hour on the job.
Go ahead, Mike.
If I could, I think there's two competing issues here. One is what's the willingness for people to pay for a seasonal permit or overnight parking, and then there's what the system actually costs. For it costs $280,000 to provide the ferry connector for the season. What does that divide out if we have a 200 space parking lot? What is everybody's contribution? Right now, it's $1,750 for the season, or it's $17.50 per space per day. That's what it costs to provide that ferry, the shuttle service. If there's a cheaper way to do it, that's great, but that's what the cost is for the NRTA, $280,000.
And that's assuming fully, that it's full, that every space is full every day.
We're assuming 80% of a 200 space lot's full in that window of time, and that's how you pay for it. Right now, it's that's what the cost is. If you balance that against the willingness to pay, then there's about $1,000 per vehicle per season that has to be made up somewhere. Perhaps that could be the embarkation fee.
I would hope a couple of the partners stay on board because they are gaining the most of this than anybody.
Matt, I think that's going to stay. I mean, I think.
And they're spending millions of dollars on the other side for the same problem. So I would hope that they'd stay involved, buying lots and doing what they're doing.
It's complicated. There are thousands of vehicles not coming to Nantucket.
Yeah.
People have to have a place to park. We don't have thousands of vehicles here for somebody to take the boat to get in their car. People get rides, their cars are at their houses in the garage, or they take a cab, they have a friend pick them up. I mean, it's a totally different. People are driving 100 and something miles to get to Hyannis to park their car. It's different. I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah,
it's
but
not the same
we
thing.
may not need as many spaces, but we still need some dedicated to it. Like they might have.
I agree with
They might
that.
have to buy 3,000 or
Well, that's
5,000.
what Andrew's point is, 2 meetings ago, is there's plenty of room out here. There's room out here to add onto this lot, regardless of whether, we want to do it or not, there is space. Wow. I mean, it is touchy, this whole thing, but I don't want to discourage people from coming here to work. They don't need a house, so we should be happy. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. There's lots of ways to talk about this topic.
I can tell you also, Mr. Chairman, if there's other people at workers and things like this that may want to park there overnight or go away for the weekend, it's kind of a lot to ask to pay that kind of an overnight fee, like a $17.50 overnight, because it will discourage a lot of people from using it who aren't contractors.
Exactly. You're saying what I'm saying, even
Yeah.
though you suggested it.
Yeah, I'm just telling you what it divides out to be. I mean, the Steamship Authority provides shuttle service from their lot to the terminal there, and I don't know what their rates are and what their overhead is. For the NRTA to provide that service, it's $280,000 a season.
At some point in time, one of the bus companies and one of the boat lines might have its own bus, but then everybody will be angry because they're not using theirs. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, something could change. in the
Well, we kind of offered that to them, Matt. And they didn't jump on it.
No, at the beginning there was so many. Highline's spending over $20 million to get us to fix things here, so they're not looking to. They got bad buses to begin with what they've owned to us. It's a big investment for them. So anyway, okay, I think that's sufficient discussion. I'm sorry that this is a circular discussion, though. It's never really going to end. It's just constantly. It's just that kind of thing on Nantucket. There's nothing you can do about it. Mike, are you okay with moving on from this, or we're going to try to have a meeting in September, right? Mm-hmm. Workshop, or
We'll wait and see, I suppose. I don't know if
we
that
definitely need you with all this funding stuff.
Yeah.
So that we can all read it without glasses too, Mike.
Yeah.
Because
If it's all right, if it was suggested at the last meeting, we just keep this on the agenda as a
Absolutely.
rolling item, and as new information comes available, we can talk about it. If there's nothing new to discuss, then we can push it off for a month. But I think for the next meeting, we'll at least have the new alternative for the NRTA year-round service, and we can continue discussing funding options for the ferry connector. Perhaps there have been some discussion at the town level, Board of Selectmen, NRTA Advisory Board level.
I think the
How to
biggest,
manage that.
and I think also Jack brought it up. I don't know what meeting it was. I think it's 2 meetings ago too. We gotta figure out how far we wanna go into stroll. Do we do stroll? Do we do Thanksgiving? What are we doing? You know, that's another question about these workers. The weather starts getting bad. Steamship and Highline, you know, the steamship schedule ends in, usually January 30th for the fast boat. So, you know, I would say when the winter schedule starts, that's when the town parking lot pops in, because there's only 5 boats. They're only going on the 4:30.
Yeah.
And that's it. So, you know what I mean? I mean, I just think that that's the date that if we were going to run it longer, sometime in December. I mean, it's stroll, I guess, or whatever. I'm not even saying stroll's a date. I'm just saying we have to come up
Stroll
with
is a
something.
tourist thing, it's not a workman.
I know, that's right. He's right. I thought of that myself. I don't even know if that's the right thing to do
Yeah, I
anymore.
mean, we may even go.
It's
go
really
back as
about
far as
weather.
the-
It's all
Yeah.
about weather. This March was crazy. Next year, if it's cold, you're not going to see the Highline boat full every day because it's March.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, just, if we're talking about dates, I would say running it past stroll would probably be a good day. I mean, I don't know, downtown, this last stroll event, trying to find a parking space in the town
Oh,
parking
you're
lot.
talking about using it for the locals to park and go to town.
Right.
Yeah,
You should really run it up to Christmas.
yeah,
Yeah, only because for downtown events,
yeah. No, that's true.
there's all the contractors are in the town parking lot,
Yeah.
so there's.
So they're
nothing-
taking up the whole thing and they can't use it.
And
No,
then
that's
we'll
true.
be and then we're running something right through New Year's now. They're running like, right up to
Events.
Yeah, so.
No, that's a good point,
Yeah.
Mike.
I mean, just being down there on Saturday of stroll at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was packed, all full of box trucks. It's like, where's the public gonna park?
Okay.
There's no other way to get, there's no bus service.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for everyone's passion in this topic. It is passionate. That and paid parking. Okay. We'll move on to the bike BPAC committee, Mike. We have 6 members. The existing members have all expressed interest. It's Kevin Marshall, Jason Bridges, Dave Fredericks, Harvey Young, Rachel Hobart, and Ian Golding. And we have 2 new or other, applicants. Let's get Joe Conway from the Nantucket Bike Shop. And Jean Allen has written a handwritten letter that she did last year. It's right here. It's a little late, but that's irrelevant in my opinion. I can see it. I didn't bring my glasses. So, I mean, Mike, you're up to date on this committee, right?
Yeah, I'm very happy with the existing composition
existing
of the committee. The request of the NPC is to fill those 6 seats and then to appoint an NPC member to also serve. Right now, it's Linda Williams
Yeah.
who's serving on the committee. So, like I said, it's no complaints with the existing composition.
I don't know where she is. She zoomed past me when I was on my way here, so something must be going on.
Is there any reason why we couldn't expand the,
We did once. We already did, Kara, and I'm not so sure. I mean, we can do that. We have the,
If we got people that are interested, why not put everybody on there?
I know, it's complicated, Mike. We did this once before. Should we do this again? What's
As
your
long
thought?
as they can get a quorum.
Andrew, I mean, we have this, we've done this with the right-of-way committee too. You're raising your quorum.
Right.
Yep.
That's the, and we don't have staggered membership, Jack.
No.
We've left it on purpose
Sure.
because, the relevance of it, we don't want to get it too complicated, I
well, if
thought.
it's just on our own motion, we could try it, and Mike can report if it's a difficulty, and we can go back down again.
Right.
Yeah, but it's hard to take something away. It's hard to put someone on a committee and then take them off a committee.
It's just true.
Just working with committee sizes, this is a pretty big crowd.
How many
Committees of
total
about 4 to
members do we
6
have
are a
now?
pretty good size.
7?
I'm sorry?
How many total members do we
We have
have?
7 right now.
Does that include the MPDs? There's nobody from the selectmen on this or anything? You're you're a,
The ex officio
whatever you
staff
are,
member.
ex officio.
Or not even ex officio, I'm just staff to it.
Okay. And you go to all, and you take care of this committee, don't you? I mean, you're pretty much like the kind of the
Executive director.
ad hoc chairperson, kind of organizing the emails and the meetings.
Sure.
Sort of, like Erica does for the
Sure. For traffic safety. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought it would end up turning into that. I kind of assumed that it would happen that way, because it's just a different thing. It's not a regulatory, you've got to have somebody, as Matt said earlier, sort of make it their own thing,
Yeah.
you know, or it doesn't work, like Alan does, but right away. I think we should have a discussion on this, though, adding. I don't know if we should just blanketly add 2 people just because, okay?
Was there a motion to do that?
No, I just wanted to make a little
I would
conversation.
discourage you from doing that. I think, I think maybe you could personally invite, I mean, I agree with you if there's interest, let's get those people there. But I think
That's what
the
we
committee
said.
the committee, this is an advisory committee and it's working well. I think you ought to stick with the 7. That's kind of an ideal number. I think it's well balanced right now.
Could you have a system where there's an alternate? So maybe one of the new applicants have an alternate, so they're prepped for the
Maybe,
future,
yep.
but also
Yep.
they're not
So it's
relying
6
on that
people
quorum.
plus you're the 7th.
No, Linda Williams is.
Two alternates.
Could do it that way.
Yeah.
You want to do that?
They can attend the meetings, if somebody doesn't show up, they can fill in.
Yep, that's a good idea.
It's not a bad idea. Do you want, can we just make a motion, somebody make a motion to add 2 alternate seats on the BPAC?
So moved.
Okay,
It was just poofed.
we just did it. All those in favor? Those opposed? Guys have it unanimously, Eleanor. I like
Minutes
that.
are gonna say
That's a
proof.
great idea. Who came up with that? Is that John? That was great, John.
Did you fill the seats of these?
I didn't even think of it. Well, we'll do that now.
Okay.
So, does anyone want to make a motion to
Well,
appoint? Well, no, we got
With the 2,
We gotta pick 2.
the 6 and the 2. Wanna
appoint
do
the
that?
same 6 and then the other 2
Yeah,
as alternates.
yeah.
I'll second that.
Second that. That's Jack's motion, Eleanor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Excellent. That was great. Excellent. That's a great idea. I didn't even think of it. I was an alternate like you, John. It's been a while. I didn't think of that. Okay. Accepting the membership appointments of Housing Authority and Conservation. Are you already, didn't we?
Well, first of all, did the Housing Authority appoint you? So they did. So,
Yeah.
so we need to accept the appointment for the Housing Authority.
Somebody want to make that motion? Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
And Conservation Commission, have you all voted on that? No?
But does it expire at the same time? Why do I feel like we just did this?
No, it comes up every year, and
They forget.
Voted until the new member is replaced.
So it's not like he's not on.
Right.
It's just they haven't had it on their agenda yet.
right. The county, there's the 3 that come up every year. The county, we already voted on that, and Housing Authority and Conservation Commission. So,
So we have to wait
Happy
till.
with me doing it last time, so
okay,
I don't see the change, but I'll mention it.
okay.
We can't just appoint you for that?
Yeah, right.
Like the bike committee?
I suppose you could accept,
If they make it and want to do that?
yeah, you
Can we
could do that, yeah.
No, that's
Yes.
legal,
So-
right?
Then he doesn't have to come back again and do it.
So someone makes a motion to accept Andrew Bennett as the conservation member when and if they,
And if they vote for somebody else, we don't accept that.
okay. So somebody want to make that motion?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. That's good.
So could you reiterate the motion?
The motion is to,
When he is confirmed by.
right, right. And Jack made the second. And Bert made the
Barry
motion.
is second.
Oh, okay. Barry made it. Whatever voice was quicker. It's a photo finish. Okay.
So item H, Mr. Chairman, at-large member, we have one applicant, Mr. Gardner, who is re-upping.
Anyone want to
I'll make that motion to appoint Ms. Jack Gardner for the at-large position.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Thank you, Jack, very much, by the way. You're like, when I saw you down at the boat the other day, I was very, very excited. And then Tom Giffen showed up too, that was really great. Okay. Election of officers. If anyone has any questions, I did put my name in.
Are you both willing to re-up?
And
If
I
so,
didn't
I move that
see
you
Andrew's.
get voted in.
If Andrew gets,
You and Ian.
so if you all have me again, I'd love to be, serve another year.
I'll make a motion, we accept the slate as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone. The contract review committee, that is
Bert, right?
Bert, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And you want to do that again, Bert?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone want to make that motion?
Motion to accept.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Nice, have it unanimously. And Capcom is me, and it's actually I really enjoy this. Even though I miss a couple of Wednesdays, I can't seem to raise the gavel high enough to change the Wednesday meetings, but my steamship meetings are on Wednesdays, the first Wednesday of every month, so I miss 2, but it is a incredible process that I think Phil is resigning this year. I believe he's not going to be chair this year. So we're still kind of searching that group out. I have my thoughts who should be chair. But it's really where the rubber meets the road, this Capcom committee. It's a lot of good information, a lot of good presentations from Kara's department, from police, from fire. Fire did a fantastic job from water department. It's eye-opening. So
We'll learn a lot about the government, right?
it's boy, you can. It's sort of it's a good. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not super formal, so you can kind of talk about things in a way that's nuts and bolts, which is what I like about it. Get like when there was a lot of explanation about this, all the sewer pump out stations and the condition they're in. It was really very interesting conversation. Helps us with planning as well with some of that stuff. So if you all have me on that again, I'd certainly like to participate for another year.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Andrew, this is Barry's thing, right?
Yep, Barry's been this Marlboro representative.
The fluffy one.
The floppy one. Makes us appreciate Andrew very much.
It is. Hey, Andrew, you go to some of this stuff, don't you?
I did, and recently Leslie attended, so she's familiar with.
This is the off-island stuff now.
Association of Regional Planning.
You have to go to occasionally. So, does anyone have any interest in this? Gary, you want to stay with it? Okay.
Make a motion.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I'll stay on the Affordable Housing Trust as well.
Okay.
Make
Alright.
a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Do we have to do BPAC too?
Do we have to, we appointed Linda, I believe, with Jack's motion, but if we want to make a separate motion for Linda to stay on, you want to do that? Would that be appropriate? I don't think, yeah, I think we probably should.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though it's
Just for
not on the
clarity.
agenda, we have to do this. She's up too, right? It's all the same, right?
Correct.
Mike? Okay. So does somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
Second.
is there a second? Sure. No, but I think we're trying to be official.
Under F, that's
Yeah.
the agenda under F.
Oh, okay, because it's on there
Oh,
without
part of
being,
it. Okay.
yeah.
So just,
And all those in favor? You got that? That was Bert's second. The motion was Andy. Eleanor?
Can I make a comment about all this, or a question maybe?
Yes.
Just that it feels like that's all good to have the continuity, but I feel I don't see a lot of room for movement, and it seems healthy to encourage that going forward, not to mess it up right now. I certainly wouldn't want to do that. But so I welcome thoughts on how we can encourage more flow on all this. The other thought I'm having is, if these are NPNEDC outreaches to these other committees, I don't recall ever having feedback from them here much, and maybe we could add that into.
Is that about the bike committee, like, for
I
example?
guess just everything that we have a representative out in. We're not here, like, this is the first I've heard you talk about how awesome Capcom is, and, it seems like something, maybe it's almost like if the purpose of having an NPNEDC member on these other committees is to kind of inform the NPNEDC, then we need to be doing that. And the other thing is, if there's meetings that you can't make twice, however much, it's almost like we need an alternative NPNEDC member to come back. Probably not to every bike meeting, but if it's something a little bit important.
At the end of the agenda of each
You
time
know-
we meet, we ought to have people report on what we
Every other time.
Mike,
or
what
at
do you
least,
think about that as
you
far
know.
as BPAC goes? I mean, because they have a lot of input now. Like, sort of like right-of-way, and it's sort of the same vein with stuff outside of, like, the thing that we just did at the Rotary, it's not finished, but
Cut across.
they had input on that.
Yeah. It's definitely a group you can bounce ideas off of and get guidance from, and that's the purpose.
And that was
I
the
think-
reason for it.
Yeah, I think what Wendy's getting at is there's an item under Board of Selectmen for Selectmen reports where they do this, where they talk about the committees that they're part of. I think that's what Wendy's talking about.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
We should do it at the end of our agenda.
I think that's a good idea, and also, too, is maybe we could get Jason, or, I mean, Linda usually says something about it as far as BPAC goes, but maybe get him to come to the meeting. You know,
That's probably the one I'm
if
the
you
least
can.
worried about, or maybe there's other meetings that NPDC could be attending just as in the audience.
Well, those meetings are year-round. Capcom is for like 2.5 months,
Oh, okay.
and poof, it's jammed in, like there's a meeting every week for,
Is that right before town meeting, or?
it's before FinCom gets a hold of all the same stuff, essentially, and then they jam it in for 2.5 months. So that's kind of how it works. As far as the other stuff goes, I mean, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund thing is new. And,
Well, I think there's plenty to report on that, so.
and it's
to update.
conversation about that all the time. And now that they have their funding, and it's sort of on the ground now, so maybe you could be the designee to explain.
Well, yeah, and
Progress.
Kara's our rep on there, and I think that's a good idea. I mean, that's similar to what the selectmen do when they have something to report,
Yeah.
they do, and,
Yeah, that is good, I think.
yep.
As far as the housing authority goes, we never really talk about that other than when there's a project for it, because it's act of the state
Yeah, I mean,
legislature. We don't really
basically
talk
what
about
we
it.
end up doing is submitting our budgets every year to the state and federal programs
Yeah.
that cover some of the housing units over there. And the biggest project we had was the Sachem's Pass thing, but that went out to HAC to actually administer.
And what about, Andrew, tying in some of this habitat stuff into it too, a little bit, just to kind of like, there's always seems to be like one or two of those going at the same time. Just,
You mean housing-wise?
Yeah, just saying, a report on, okay, the house on Tacoma is this
Well,
one there now. I mean, I don't know, I'm just
We
tying
would-
it in.
If you remember, when we had the staff person, we had a report that
That's true.
happened, and I think we are going to have one sometime in the next fiscal year, so there's money that's been appropriated at least for a part-time person, so at least that position may come back.
I think Wendy's point, now that I'm like sort of absorbing it more, it's like sort of like in Nantucket, like the selectmen have the county commissioner hat, NERDA hat, Pat is a little bit more sort of plugged into all these different memberships, the way it's set up, and I think that she's raising a really good point. I wouldn't have thought of it exactly that way. It's the same as the selectmen reports. You know, I mean, I could give reports on the right-of-way committee too, just because there's so much stuff that goes on through the different, I mean, we could talk about, some of it isn't necessarily planning commission, but it's related in, with the, whether it's the accesses and the yard sales and what it affects, certain things that affect stuff that we're interested in here versus what
Yeah, that's all. I wouldn't
someone
want,
else is
we don't
interested in.
talk about the same things too many times as it is. So
Yeah, I know.
I wouldn't want
Well,
to be overly redundant.
And we're advisory as well. It's not, we're not
Right.
regulatory, although we do plug into all these different things, you know.
Why don't we try it for a
I think
period
we
of
should
time
do
and
it.
See how it works out.
Put it on the agenda for August, and we'll also be half through the summer by then. And maybe we could talk about banning passing of cars in Nantucket. I'd love to talk about that. It's my big one. But anyway, okay. Well, thank you for that very much, everyone. Mike, do you want to? Gabe's sitting there on his. I don't know what Gabe's doing. He must be cooking. He's grilling right now, back and forth. That's good. So you want to go over the transportation report, Mike, or?
If there's anything in there that you have any questions about, I think we took care of a lot of the items that were in the report already, tipping the EWP and the participation plan. I could note that the bid opening for the in-town Phase 1, the project that we just amended the tip to create more funding or accept more funding for. The bids for that is scheduled to be opened in late August. And that's to allow the time for all these different amendment processes. So that's
Good.
about the only added note that I could give you there.
I have one question on it. You've got the ferry numbers. Do you net out the number of cars on island?
Yes.
We used to do that.
The register cars.
Well, registered and the total number on the island. We used to have a rolling number so you could tell every month. You know,
Oh,
how
over
many
and
total-
back.
Yeah, over and back, and then how many are here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you hit August and you're at peak, do we have 23, 24? How many thousand do we have?
So what he means,
21,500. I
by
think
the
was
middle of
last
July, it's Saturday, is the same number over and the same number back.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, but there are cars.
Yeah,
There are
okay.
some cars that come over and never go back.
Yeah.
And then there are some that get
Yeah,
crushed
yeah.
and get taken off island. And we used to do that once a year. We used to. I'm thinking I was on the MPEC 15 years ago.
What-
That was a number that was tracked.
what's definitely affected tracking vehicles is leases, corporate America vehicles.
Yeah.
They're not registered here.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter.
Oh.
It didn't matter because you have so many come over on the boat, so many go back on the boat, so many are already here, and so many get crushed and taken off. So many get brought to the Don Allen and sold. You know,
Yeah.
it's a closed loop, and we used to have a pretty good estimate of it.
We have, I mean, Mike gets all his ferry numbers. I mean, I never.
No, I still do
know
exactly
we
what he's
had
talking about.
Yeah.
like 17,000 registered vehicles here. And a lot of those don't leave, never leave, they're in a garage. There's more and more and more of those.
Yeah.
You know, I think everybody kind of knows that that's the new trend, is to put your seasonal car, leave it here, you know?
And another thing too is they don't force you to register in Massachusetts anymore like they used to.
Yeah.
I was just looking at somebody's cab today who's been working here.
Oh,
for 5
forced to
years.
register it on there to
Right,
keep it
from
here.
Massachusetts. Somebody that's been working here for 5 years now and has still got out of state registration.
Yeah, all you have to do is tip off the state police, that's their
Oh, that's
valley work.
different.
Yeah, I know, but these people have been here for 5 years.
Well, the other thing too is you get all the people who register their cars in New Hampshire or in Florida, and if they're not working here, but they just live here, they get away with it. It's only if you work here that you have to register your vehicle here.
Well, I'm not so much worried about that. I just
Yeah.
know that the
He wants to know how
numbers.
many cars.
Yeah, back in the day, the gridlock number was 25,000 when we did the studies. Now, that might have changed a little bit because of the two rotaries or whatever. But when we hit 24, 25, I want to know were we right? You know, and if we're not tracking, how do we know whether that projection was true or not true?
But it makes a difference in excise taxes. These people
That's
are
true.
working here.
No, he's right about that. That's a different discussion.
Just like
And that's money in that pocket.
Yeah.
I think Jim Cranston used to go around and hit all the teachers up at school when he was a bus driver and tell them, you can't have a car like that.
Well, the street list triggered some of that, Jack.
Right.
It upticked it, okay, to get more people to register their car here to get the excursion. But there's a lot of one-way tickets sold, you know, to people that live here because they don't want to be on it. So there's a little bit of both going on in that department. She got a lot of traction on that, Catherine. I don't know how she did it, but she did
But
it.
I think that, so Mike, you have this information, right?
Oh, yeah, I could,
You have to have it
for my own
estimate.
curiosity, if nothing, I don't necessarily share it. If you'd like to see that in the next meeting, I can absolutely provide it.
Yeah, I'd love to see it, yeah.
Okay.
I think we're probably pretty close to 24.
Yeah, that's what I would
Yeah.
think.
Closer to
24,000
22.
cars.
Is it? You think
22,
it's in that
yeah.
area?
Yeah, it's 21, 22. Yeah. We,
Oh, those vehicles are paying $500 to come here. So they're subsidizing our kids to play sports. I mean, I'll never stop saying that because that's fact. It's just true.
yeah.
I don't know what to say. Is that it, Mike? For you? You sure?
That's all I have, unless there's any other questions about any
Oh,
other.
and Kara, can I just bring something up real quick? Just because we're on this like other committee kind of thing a little bit. We're going to be doing the Milk Street this fall, right?
This fall.
Okay. And everything is ready to go on that, right?
The only
The
thing that we're
easements or
waiting
whatever
on
we're doing,
is the
telephone
poles.
wires.
Yeah, we're waiting on poles.
Yeah, but that stuff is gonna.
In the works.
Is in, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else have anything? No, Lauren, what are we doing?
So other business.
That's right, other business is Lauren Sinatra. I forgot.
So, Lauren,
Okay.
in your packet,
What page is that on?
starting on page 46,
46.
and then the actual application is included in here, and Lauren's highlighted, right?
Yep.
So I think we're looking basically for support of the town's application or the ability to file it ourselves if need be, right?
It's still unclear to me, it's for circuit rider services, and it said, you know, in the requirements to work with the regional planning commission, so unless I'm looking for guidance on how this MOU would be written, but we only have until, you know, the grant was announced on Thursday, it closes on July 6th, there's not much time.
Right.
And there are a few reasons why I think we should go for this. There's 5 criteria that become a green community. The discussion about this has essentially stopped. I see this funding as reason to revitalize that, to see if it can fulfill the 5 criteria or in fact we are incompatible with certain things that the green communities requires. But the funding's there. Let's see what we can do with that.
Okay. Andrew, what do you need us to do?
So I need a motion from you to either support, well, I guess I'd like to keep it broad, so you either support the town's submission of this or that we submit it ourselves. They do talk about direct funding to a regional planning agency, so
Do you have a sense which is more
Yeah,
advantageous,
exactly.
more likely to get?
I think maybe the regional planning agency might,
That's what I was
Just
thinking.
fits into that stuff
Yeah.
more.
We should
We should do it ourselves.
okay.
also move that we do.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
Who made the first motion? When?
Jack.
Jack.
No, that's great. I mean, that's the kind of thing that the planning agencies can do, usually.
Right. Right.
Is this like Delta money? or-
Yes, it is.
So, okay.
Yep.
Is that it? Is that it for her?
That's it.
Is that the only thing?
That's
Okay.
it. I mean, the only other thing to update the commission on, I'm going to be, well, actually, I wanted to see who might be interested in reading the Northeast Ocean Planning Document. Anybody? Any volunteers? Andy, that sounds right up your alley.
What page is that on?
I don't have it in here. It's a document we have to get comments back.
Is this where you just were?
I was in New Bedford listening to the testimony, very interesting.
Is that the vote?
I did, well, I'll tell you about that in a minute.
We have to say goodbye.
I don't want to send it out if nobody's really interested, but it's,
I should.
okay.
I mean, yeah.
It's called, it's not the same planning document, and Lauren has reviewed it as well. She's putting her comments together. And it's designed for Maine, New Hampshire, it's big regional, yes. But it's not like the state's ocean plan that really ended up almost like a zoning type map. It's more of a process plan than, a specific type plan. So I think what Lauren and I have talked about is, there's a question about where it goes after the state, like how does it come down to the local level? I think, what else did you look at, Lauren?
On the chapter on energy and infrastructure, I didn't think there's a fair representation of our substations here that could be reason to connect an offshore wind turbine project directly to Nantucket. I don't think looking at the map that would have been obvious to any planner. So just to represent Nantucket's best interest in the energy planning, knowing offshore wind is in the near future.
Okay.
I would love to comment on ocean outfalls.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if there's a paragraph of, all right, so you two I will send it to. Anybody else?
I'll look at it.
Matt, okay.
I promise to tell. I won't argue that it's not their ocean, it's our ocean.
Is
I won't do that yet.
Has anyone applied, like federally
Yeah.
applied to do anything? Because that's how the ocean plan is set up, for like a,
You mean for leasing sites
Yeah,
in federal
yeah,
waters? Yes. They're going through that process now. I don't know if they've actually awarded sites.
There were 4 sites that went out to bid for leases, only 2 received bids back. So there are 2 sites now leased to 2 different companies, Dong Energy out of Norway and Offshore Wind LLC out of New Jersey. And one site is going to be 13 miles offshore Nantucket.
And these are sites where they're doing the investigation, is that right? So it's not about construction yet, it's doing the environmental assessment.
Yeah, and 1 year from now, a survey is due
Right.
from both companies.
Right.
and whatever happened to that blue wave or whatever? Remember the guy that came over here from Dominion?
Oh, they had that wave thing that was
Is that
going
all?
to generate like.
Well, they ended up testing somewhere else, right?
North Carolina.
They went to North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
The Muskegon Channel, we got notice that they're a little bit dead in the water right now. I saw John Miller, who was working for UMass, SMass, and he's retired from there. And that's an issue of raising money for the prototype, which has not happened yet. So I did want to mention that we did have the trip to New Bedford. Wendy went on that with the chamber. That was very interesting for economic development type ideas on the new boat. There were chamber representatives. It was interesting. Certainly that whaling museum is very, very interesting. I don't know if anyone has been there. Yeah.
How did it look like compared to ours?
They have 3, 4, 5 whales. They said we had whale envy by the end of the trip. So.
You know, considering what that place was to look like as well too, and what they've done, it is absolutely wonderful. The architecture is commended highly, and so should the town for that matter.
Yeah.
But, you know, between that and some of the other things they're doing, like the downtown theaters and stuff, I mean, you can see they're trying to revitalize certain parts of that downtown now.
Right.
So,
Well, there's a rental car right there in New Bedford, and it's a $50 fast boat round trip, right? I think so. It's an excellent alternative for islanders to use.
and there's,
I think there was a special or something.
Right, from there?
You said it's $50 round
I think
I
it
thought
was,
they had a special. I think there was like, if you did it in a certain time, days. I
I
may have read
gotta
it
go
wrong. I
Friday.
guess.
My son received an award there at the Whaling Museum, and I gotta go Friday, it's $50 each way.
I was gonna say, I'm 50 round trip.
It was 70 round trip.
Yeah,
then.
something like
Maybe,
that.
yeah.
Round trip, right.
guess I was thinking it's a good deal compared to like going to Hyannis and then driving that far. You're just on the boat and then you're there, and then the parking on the
Yep.
other side. It's definitely
The only other thing is, some of you may have heard that the zoning reform bill made it out of one house of the state, which is the Senate. It's doubtful that that is going to actually be enacted this year. So it was a major victory to have it released. Since 1989, it's been under consideration here, so, yeah. So, I know, well, so anyway, but there's still a ways to go for that to actually be enacted. So, Leslie, you were at MARPA, they don't think it's going to be, it's got to go to the House, it's got to be voted by them. If there's any differences, it's got to go to committee, and it's all got to be wrapped up by the end of July?
No, by the end of the year,
Okay.
yeah.
But-
And what they were saying at MARPA, and one of the regional planning agencies has a lot of staff that are always at the State House, talking to the various senators and representatives. And they said that, it did come out of the Senate, but with the elections and everything coming up, it'll probably get stalled. And even if it didn't stall, that the House isn't going to adopt the same amendments as the Senate, and it'll probably have to be resubmitted next year in some version, whether it's the original version or the Senate version or some different version.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Gabe, are you at dessert yet? Thank you for your time, everyone. I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
All those in favor?